Hello, my name is Evan Baldwin, and I want to talk to you about a pandemic that has affected almost everyone. It has caused minor to severe depression, physical harm, and, in some cases, death. In spite of these adverse symptoms, this pandemic has been hiding under most of humanity's noses for many decades. This pandemic is bullying. It is terrifying that this atrocious act is present in almost every high school in America. Even middle schools are not safe from this act of juvenile torture. Here is an example of bullying as it occurs in middle school. This is Will. He is 14 years old and he loves hiking, running, and participating in the Boy Scouts. He also has a mental disorder known as Asperger's syndrome, a minor form of autism. This means that he thinks differently than others and finds it hard to succeed socially. Despite this, he was able to create a circle of friends with a few other students: Caden, Tarek, Chase, Evan, and Dylan. They got along fairly well. They hung out together at school, and Will sometimes had the entire group come over to his house to play video games and eat pizza. However, this friendship didn't last. In the 6th grade, Will found himself moving on to other, more mature hobbies. His friends did not want to move on from their old hobbies, and a rift started to form between Will and the rest of the group. That's when the bullying began. The group knew about Will's mental disorder and used it against him. They tormented him at recess. They stole his lunch. They called him hurtful names and curse words. They even started spreading horrible rumors about him. One day, he just broke. He ran home from school that day. He went to his room and cried. His only source of friends had turned into his worst nightmare, a group of bullies. He tried playing Minecraft to calm himself down, but even there he could not escape his bullies. Chase, one of the bullies, contacted him in-game and told him about a sleepover that Will was not invited to, and said it was all Will's fault. Even while he was in the safety of his own home, Will was still exposed to the cruelty of his friends-turned-bullies. If you heard that this was happening to someone you knew, you would be enraged. Who in their right mind would allow this to go on? Well, what if I told you that events similar, or even worse than this, occurred to around 20% of American children from grades 8 through 12, according to StopBullying.gov. Let me repeat that. In grades 8 through 12, 1 in 5 students have experienced bullying nationwide. That's how widespread this pandemic is. Even worse, this rate is less than the international average. In fact, according to StopBullying.gov, 1 in 3 of the world's youth have experienced bullying. Let that sink in. Using this international statistic, if you have 3 or more kids that are school age, statistically, there is a good chance that at least one of them is currently being bullied or has been bullied. Now, you may be wondering, what does bullying even mean? The definition of bullying, as presented by StopBullying.gov, is unwanted aggressive behavior, observed or perceived power imbalance, and repetition or high likelihood of repetition of bullying behaviors. Why do bullies show this behavior? The bully wants to feel like they are more powerful than their victims, so they haunt their victims physically or emotionally to show them that the bully is in charge, or they are flexing their strength, as the new fangled kids would say. While bullying stereotypically happens at school, bullying could happen anywhere. Nowadays, the victim is not even safe at home, since the bully can still reach his or her victim over the internet in the form of cyberbullying, which is just a fancy word for online bullying. Now, you may be wondering, why would someone bully someone else? They want power, but why? There is no one true answer, but there are many different scenarios that could cause a person to resort to bullying. Some bullies have low self-esteem, and the best way to raise their self-esteem is to steal it from others. They may use any of the methods described earlier, but stereotypically, male bullies are more likely to use physical abuse, while female bullies are more likely to use verbal abuse. There is also a stereotypical class for a victim of bullying. While this could be anyone less popular than the bully, the victim is usually depicted as a nerd in the relevant society, which usually means they are not as talented in the social or physical aspects of life. Also, victims are stereotypically bullied by a member or group of the same gender. This means that the bully is more likely to have a somewhat similar social circle with the victim, so there are more chances to bully the victim. This can lead to almost constant abuse, which can have some devastating effects on the victim. The effects of bullying can be anything from the victim being mildly annoyed and embarrassed to the victim wanting to end the bullying in any way possible, at any cost. However, most of the time the victim's reaction is somewhere in the middle. The abuse does have a widespread impact on their lives, physically or emotionally, but the victim doesn't usually go to extreme measures to end the bullying. By that, I mean they don't report the bullying to parents, teachers, etc. The extreme action I am referencing is much darker and more dangerous. Taking drugs, underage drinking, and, in worst cases, thoughts or actions of suicide. Suicide is, and it always has been, a touchy subject. However, it is not something to be ignored. In fact, the topic of suicide should be even more important than bullying. For those of you who do not know, the definition of suicide is the intentional taking of one's own life. This may bring up visions of great bravery or martyrdom, but that is not what I'm going to talk about today. The type of suicide I will be talking about is the more depressing one, the intentional taking of one's own life to end the pain. While common sense dictates that bullying is directly linked to suicide, the Center for Disease Control has not proven that bullying is directly linked to suicide. Although it is likely that bullying may be a factor in someone's decision to take their own life, it is not a pure cause and effect relationship. This can make detecting someone who is at risk of suicide more difficult, but there are warning traits identified by the National Institute of Mental Health that may help you identify who is at risk. These include hopelessness, a lack of inner drive, estranging friends, giving away items that they hold dear, signs of self-harm, past suicide attempts. Although these do not have the sole cause of suicidal thoughts, these traits should still send alarm bells to anyone's mind. If you know someone that has these traits, well, don't panic. Well, sure, panic, but don't show it. Go and comfort the loved one that is in danger. Find out what light in their life is missing, and then become that light. Most people well versed in the topic of suicide has heard this spiel before. However, there is one main difference. Comfort them instead of confront them. Listen to what your loved one has to say. That is usually all that you need. The loved one may just feel alone, and if you listen, you may become the beacon of light that allows them to push through those dark times. However, there are cases where the loved one just wants to move on and pretend it never happened. This usually happens if they had just undergone a failed suicide attempt and are recovering from the tragedy. By then, they may have realized that ending the pain in that particular way isn't the best way to go about it, and they want to begin a new chapter of their life. They do not want to go back and analyze the part of their life where they were in the dark, and forcing them to do so may bring the darkness back. While there is no sole cause of suicide, bullying is one of the factors that comes to mind. So, if you are walking through the school corridors and see that someone is being bullied, stop. Do what you can to get the victim away from the bully of bullies. Try to start a friendly chat if there is time. Do everything you can to make them feel not like the negative things that the bully or bullies say that the victim is. Above all, be kind. Bullying is a pandemic, and kindness is the cure. If you find that you are a victim of bullying, you need to do something about it. Get a friend, parent, or trusted adult and tell them about it. If you can, go to someone with some authority, which can be anyone from a parent to the principal. Tell them what is going on and emphasize that it needs to stop. In the case that they ignore you, go to someone else. Keep going until you find someone that counts, because there will be someone who does. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. If need be, visit someone even higher up than the principal, like the police or the mayor. Let your story be known. Then, at the very least, you will find out that you do have a voice, and that you do matter. However, use that newfound courage peacefully. If you find that the best course of action for you is to stand up to the bully, you need to kill it with kindness. Fighting back physically or spreading your own rumors about the bully turns you into a bully, which adds to the pandemic, not subtracts from it. Above all, be kind. Bullying is a pandemic, and kindness is the cure. If you find your actions match the description of a bully's, stop and think about what you are doing. Is your pestering just jokes among friends, or are you willingly hurting another with both words and actions? If you are, then realize that what you are doing is hurting the body, mind, and soul of a fellow human being, and that you should reconcile with your victim and try to undo the damage that you have done. Above all, be kind. Bullying is a pandemic, and kindness is the cure. Earlier, I told a story about Will, who was having a bullying problem. I bet you were wondering how it ended. Well, this is what happened. Knowing that the bullying would not end on its own, Will decided to go to someone for help. Lucky for him, he has a kind, supportive mother to help him solve his problem. She advised him to go and make new friends to support him. Soon after, Will met Jaden, another kid at his school. They quickly became friends, and they started playing games together. When the bullies came to tease Will once again, something spectacular happened. Jaden stood up and told them to go away. When this happened, Will knew he had found a true friend in Jaden. Now, Will is in the 8th grade. Jaden stuck with Will, along with a few other new friends. The group of bullies had broken up, each taking their own new paths. Caden and Tarek moved to a different school. Chase is now a part of a group of new troublemakers, but he doesn't bother Will anymore. Evan hardly wanted to Will anymore, and Dylan decided to reconcile with Will. They eventually became band partners. This was a great example of getting others to help you fix the problem. Instead of taking it out on the bullies or descending into depression, Will went to his kind mother for advice. With her advice in mind, Will made a new friend, and, as a result, ended the bullying. Jaden was Will's beacon of light, and allowed him to overcome the darkness being spread by his bullies. If, at any time, you come across someone who is also being surrounded by darkness, become that person's beacon of light, and work together to push back the dark. Above all, be kind. Bullying is a pandemic, and kindness is the cure. I cannot stress enough that we need to be kinder to others. Bullying, which is the heightening of someone's arbitrary values of power and popularity at the very real expense of someone else's happiness, is the exact opposite of that. Even attacking someone in this way in reaction to that person bullying you is against the goal of kindness. Instead, either confront the bully peacefully and tell them to stop, or go get someone else that can make them stop. Even though I have given you these tools, you have to be the one who takes action. Together, we can spread the cure of kindness, and we can stop